You ever have one of those days that start off normal, maybe even a bit boring, and then take a twist you'd never see coming? Well, that's exactly what happened to me last Wednesday. My wife, Emma, had just left for work, as usual, leaving me alone in the quiet house. I remember the silence being so deep that I could hear the clock ticking in the next room. Nothing out of the ordinary. I was mentally planning my day, maybe get some work done, catch up on a show or two. Just a regular day, or so I thought. But then, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. My first thought was a delivery. But when I opened the door, there stood my mother-in-law, Mrs. Thompson. Now, don't get me wrong, she's a lovely woman, always been warm, caring, treated me like her own son. But there was something in her smile that morning, something different, a spark in her eyes that I hadn't noticed before. "James," she beamed, stepping inside before I could even invite her in. "I had some free time today and thought I'd drop by. I brought some breakfast, hope you're hungry." The whole thing caught me off guard, but I couldn't say no to her company, especially with Emma at work all day. I mean, who doesn't love a little extra pampering? As we settled in the kitchen, she started unpacking a breakfast spread that looked straight out of a fancy cafe: pancakes, fresh fruit, even a thermos of steaming coffee. It was kind of nice, sitting there with someone who genuinely seemed interested in how I was doing, someone who listened without glancing at their phone or looking distracted. I started to relax, letting the morning unfold. Then, things got interesting. She leaned across the table, looking at me with this intense, almost mischievous look. "So, James," she said, her voice dropping just a little, "how's everything been with Emma?" It felt like a harmless question at first. I shrugged and gave the usual answer. "Good, you know, just busy with work. We hardly get much time together." She nodded, but her gaze lingered. There was a softness, an understanding in her eyes that seemed almost too deep. "Marriage can be like that sometimes," she murmured. "We get caught up in routines, lose sight of what really matters." It was strange, the way she said it. Almost like she was hinting at something personal. We sat there, the conversation drifting into deeper territory, talking about life, love, and everything in between. I started opening up in a way I hadn't done in a while, sharing small frustrations and hopes I hadn't even realized I'd been bottling up. And then, out of nowhere, she reached over and placed her hand on mine. Just a light touch, but it sent a jolt up my arm. My heart skipped a beat, and I didn't know whether to pull away or just let it be. "You deserve to feel appreciated, James," she whispered, her eyes never leaving mine. I couldn't remember the last time someone had looked at me like that, with such intensity. In that moment, I felt a surge of confusion, guilt, and something else. I couldn't place it, but it was there, undeniable. Part of me wanted to lean into it, see where this unexpected path might lead. But another part of me screamed to pull back, to remember Emma, to remember the commitment I'd made. Before I could respond, she took her hand back, almost as if reading my mind, and gave me a soft smile. The intensity in her eyes faded, replaced by a calm, reassuring warmth. "Don't mind me," she said with a small chuckle. "Sometimes, I just say what's on my mind." I laughed it off, trying to ease the tension in the air. But the truth was, that moment lingered, staying with me long after she left. Even now, I find myself replaying it in my mind, wondering what it meant, if it meant anything at all. That day taught me something unexpected, about temptation, loyalty, and the hidden dynamics that can creep into relationships when you least expect them. Sometimes, a simple morning can change the way you see things, open doors you didn't even know existed. It was a reminder that life is complicated, that connections are fragile, and that sometimes, the biggest surprises come from the people you think you know best.